provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings to ourselves, our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Now welcome to No Tea, O Shade with your hosts,
Chris,
Brandy,
Christopher Dior,
and myself, Corey. And today we have a very special guest sitting in with us, Kai Barrios.
Woo, hey girl!
welcome. Thank you for having me.
So today, it's very politic.
We can say politically
Say
charged.
politically charged.
Yeah, we're coming up. It's election season, so everyone make sure that you please go out and vote on November 8th. So we wanted to do something special and talk about the election and talk about our two primary candidates today. So, Kai, would you like to go ahead and fill us in? What do we have?
Sure, so we're within 15 days from the election day, and if you're not registered to vote, there's still time. Go to vote.org and you can check where to go and vote on election day. Within 15 days, Clinton's actually increased her lead. She's at 48% to Trump's 39% in the national latest polls, which is a really good sign. If the election was held today, Clinton would actually win because she's already over the 270 delegates. She's at 307 as of the last count, and Trump's at 179. Some of the things that are influencing this election is, of course, a lot of scandals from the women, the allegations that's coming through. So basically just people are not happy with how he's running his campaign, belittling women, people of color, racially charged, motivating slurs, picking on people with disabilities. The list goes on and on. Clinton herself's not completely innocent with the leaks of the emails. People don't find her honest. So there's a lot of challenges on both sides, but clearly if the election was held today, she would already be our next president. Some of the things that are interesting to me as far as the map and the battleground states, Georgia is actually within 2% in Clinton's grasp. Georgia has not voted Democratic since 1992. So that is really, really interesting. States like Utah, Arizona, typically red states also are leaning towards Clinton. Ohio, who's typically been a Democratic state, is in Trump's favor by less than 2%. So all the states that are very, very competitive are leaning into Clinton's way. Florida, I found interesting. Trump led Florida at the beginning of the general election by 13%, and Clinton has a 46 to 42. So Florida is one of the biggest electoral part of the election. So
I don't mean to interrupt. That's great information. It's really great. But I think it's moving a little too fast and it's a little too much at one time. So let's try to break that down.
Well, we should break it down, but this is some of the statistics that these kids out here need to know, because a lot of our generation is not educated enough to understand what this democratic laws are about. That's why we gave the preamble to the Constitution, so you can understand that you have inalienable rights within the system.
one of the things that irritates me a lot is people say my vote don't count. People forget the election in 2000 with Bush and Gore. Less than 500 votes separated the two, which is why Florida was recounted, why it went all the way to the Supreme Court. So everyone's vote matters. So please get out and vote. Early voting, mail voting. Please get out on election day and vote, not just for the president, your Congress. People don't realize election day is all House seats are open. Half of the Senate seats are open. We may have a Democrat president, but with a Republican-controlled Congress, we're going to be like we are now in gridlock. So please get out and vote.
Well, let's end this gridlock. Let's get to the first topic and see what we feel about this party that we call the voting system.
So, as y'all know, we had the third and final debate this last week. It was pretty much a wash. Neither candidate really excelled to where it was going to be like a win for either side, and it really didn't push the needle in our electoral roadmap or the national poll. So it was a wash. There was a lot of things that come up. It was a lot more personal this time. They started to open it up talking about the Supreme Court.
Why are you talking about the Supreme Court? Let's see. Corey, now how do you feel on the Supreme Court? What do you want to change?
Honestly, I haven't thought about what I would like to change, because with me being, I'm not going to say that I'm apathetic, but I am a part of what some people would call the apathetic youth, or the people who are not engaged within the political process. So, of course, they touch on politics while you're in school. And when I was my junior year in high school, I was in American history. That was, I believe, it was McCain and Trump, right? McCain and Trump.
McCain and Obama.
I'm sorry, yes, McCain and Obama.
2008.
I'm sorry, I'm getting things mixed up. 2008, so it was McCain and Obama. So, of course, they try to touch on some of the topics and who the differences between Republicans and Democrats. And yes, those are things that you're taught in American government, but they don't give the whole side of everything. So, as far as me, it wasn't something that I was very involved with. I need to be more involved. So, I need to learn, and I want to learn.
All right, Ms. B, being that you're in the DMV area, which is predominantly political capital 101, how do you feel about the Supreme Court, and what would be your ideas and aspirations for this sitting demagogue as it comes to the next president?
The one big thing that they kept bringing up was, the women's rights and the whole pro-life and versus, a woman's right to do whatever she wants to do in the case of, a pregnancy. I just feel that things that are related to women, to people period, shouldn't be left up to someone else, to the government to figure it out. So for me, I would like to see things like Roe v. Wade stay the way that they are, so that, we as women still have our choices and our free liberties.
Free liberties is something that we have in the United States, but most people don't understand that they can be ratified or revoked. Any sitting president or non-sitting president can go into the system and have it revoked. Ratification. If you have a Democratic Party as the president, and then you have a Republican Senate and Congress, nothing will get done. Gridlock. Chris, how do you feel about it?
I don't do politics, to like Kai does, but I do follow it a lot of it. I think that Congress is getting younger. A lot of the older ones are leaving, or leaving us. It's going to change a lot, but it does come down to the party that's elected. What you have and what you can get, and like you said, taking things back that they did before, and that can happen. People don't realize that. They think, oh, it's passed, it's good, we're good to go. No, it can go right in reverse. So getting out there and voting and knowing what you're voting for is the proper thing.
One thing that I found interesting as I watched different programs and things on TV is that this election has caused some, people to start crossing party lines, and you're hearing about them crossing party lines instead of it kind of being done in private. So everything that these candidates are both, kind of rallying back and forth against are so controversial, and their views are so different that it's creating that whole, that cross, and I found that interesting.
The one thing that we feel in this system, and then especially pertaining to me, the immigration issue is really big. And each person has their own views, each person has their own regulations they would like to enforce.
We're not going to build a wall, okay?
But we can't build a wall, and we also have to understand, this was a nation founded on immigrants. The United States was not the United States. It was based on the different tribes and ethnicities of the American Indian. So when it comes to immigration, I feel that immigration should not be applied to the United States as a whole, because we were built on immigrants. A lot of our businesses, a lot of our backbone things like you don't see at night, the immigrants do. A lot of us don't want to take those $5 an hour jobs because we don't feel it's going to get us anywhere. But there is a society and there is a culture in society that will take those jobs on. And you must remember, African Americans, I'm speaking to you, we were the immigrants for a long time.
Very long time.
Kai, let's move it on.
So the next topic was on the economy. They went back and forth on their views on how to strengthen the economy, how to build jobs, bring up domestic growth. Traditionally speaking, Democrats handle the economies better than the Republicans do, and it's been proven. Like how we left the Clinton White House in
a
99.
surplus.
The surplus.
And now we have a deficit whenever Obama took office. So those 8 years, having a Democrat in the control building the economy from the bottom up instead of from the top down is the best way to approach.
And anyone who's watching, this is what he's talking about. It's called economics. It's called GDP. If you look into our economics, you will see that there has been a shift in the title of money. The biggest place is Greece, and their economy has been slowly declining. And with that decline, the American dollar has been on a slippery slope, meaning that any stocks that you had or any bonds that you've put 100% in, you're actually going to gross out or pay out at 85 to 90%.
The problem with Congress, instead of trying to fix our national debt, they increase it. They vote to raise our debt ceiling instead of trying to cut out entitlement programs, things that can save the government money. They just raise the needle even further.
But the debt ceiling is needed in some instances, because if they didn't have that debt ceiling, the United States will shut down.
I
as a
say that
whole.
the government shut down. We ran just fine without some of the programs that are not essential.
We did, but if the government shuts down now, you couldn't get gas in your car, because that bank card that you use will be
The
non.
government's been shut down 6 times within the last 8 years.
It
And
has
every time I
been.
need a gas, I was able to get gas.
But they don't need to shut down very long.
No,
They
they
don't.
come to an agreement.
They come to an agreement, but
raise the debt
remember,
ceiling.
shutting down the government means shutting down on a lot of things.
Police
Sanitation department, police department,
Right.
your airports. You have government officials working in your airport, so you won't be able to fly from Chicago to New York. Certain things you can't shut down because you'll be without. Look at New York as a whole. A lot of their governmental agencies are sitting in the center of Times Square. Shut Times Square down, the United States does not move. There is NASDAQ, there's the UN, there is a lot of political agencies that run the tunnels and the trains and get your political person from New Jersey to DC.
Right. Once
So we spoke on a lot of issues that's pertaining to government as a whole, the GDP, who feels about the Supreme Court, what we feel about women's rights. So let's get into the real topics. Us queers, us faggots, us girls. Kai, so let's talk about this. How do you feel about Donald Trump's side when it pertains to us?
So the Republican stance has grown. There are a lot of people leaning on the left of that issue, with the same-sex marriage law that the Supreme Court passed last year. Last year.
How do you feel?
How do I feel? I feel that I feel he's a joke. I feel he would try to overturn the same-sex marriage law. I feel, even though he says he's a traditionalist, marriage, he gropes women, he's had 3 wives. So how can you be,
All of which are foreign.
how can you be faithful to your religion and be divorced 2 times? Now Hillary's also not perfect. She's also was quoted from 2000 to 2004 not being for same-sex marriage.
But you have to understand, sometimes they were on the fence because they didn't know the real issues.
So I think for her it was a political thing to come out and support it,
Yes.
because she knew she was going to run for president again.
That's a political move.
Correct.
But how I feel is either party, they want to say the right things, they want to do the right things. But when it comes to LGBTQ issues, the state of Florida, which was nominated as one of the 10 cities in the United States that has predominantly gay right issues towards us as a whole, he wants to ratify certain things. The ratification of our marriage equality law is a big issue, because it's a separation between church and state. Your church cannot tell me which state I can love, who I can love, when I can love. That's one main issue that he wants to ratify. Also, we have people in Florida that sits on our governmental boards that wish for the issues that we have been having, specifically pertaining to posts and the gun right issues. They feel a certain way. There have been people out there, especially pastors, who say that it's against the rules. But when it comes to the straight community, they can sleep with whoever, do whoever, sodomize whoever, and it's okay. But for us, it's against the rules. Corey, how do you feel on the gay rights marriage situation, being that Trump will ratify it and Hillary Clinton just got on board because it's politically correct out all of a sudden?
First, let's go ahead and take the biblical definition of sodomy. The biblical definition of sodomy is any type of sexual activity that is not penis and vaginal intercourse. Oral sex is technically sodomy. So even if you're a married couple, man and woman, and your wife is going down on you or you're going down on your husband, that's still sodomy. Now, in regards to marriage equality, originally, because I was raised very Christian and I was brought up to believe that marriage should be between a man and a woman. Originally, I did not stand for marriage equality. I was not all about gays getting married. But as time went on and I grew up and I got older and I experienced life and I was able to live my own life and be my true self, I do believe that you should have the right to marry whoever you want and it should not be dictated. I do believe in the separation of church and state because our country was not founded on religion. Yes, most of the people who were immigrants, they were brought over as Protestant Christians, but we agreed to have a government that was built off of the separation of church and state because they didn't want to live like they did in England. They didn't want to live like they did in Germany. They didn't want to be governed by those laws. We're all sinners. We all have our own sins. We're all heathens in some way. So I believe whatever you do does not make me shit. So at the end of the day, if I want to marry the man that I happen to fall in love with, I should be able to do that. So I stand behind marriage equality.
I don't see it as whoever you love and a man and a woman. You know, before, years ago, I didn't think it was important to get married. It didn't really matter. It's a piece of paper. That's what I looked at it as. It's a piece of paper.
Marriage is a business.
But now, being older.
Marriage is a business.
Yeah, but
It's
getting
legal
older.
prostitution to me.
Getting older, I see the benefits of it.
We'll talk about that later. But
We'll
marriage
talk
is a
about that
business.
moving
That's a
it
sex
up, but
episode.
it's a business because you give a little to get a little.
Right.
Let Chris finish his
Well,
3 points.
I didn't look at it as it was that important. It was just a piece of paper that you were signing saying you're together. As getting older and you see the benefits, the breaks that you get from it, you know, taxes, you know, medical rights, you know, death rights, things
Speaking
like that.
of medical rights and death rights, both candidates looked at that situation when it comes to the gay community as null and void. Hillary did say that she would look further into it to change it. Donald Trump, that's not an issue for him. And that's a big issue for us because if my partner is in the hospital sick or he's on his deathbed, I should be able to go in there and see him at any given time of the day.
Right.
No,
That's my man, not yours.
And you make those decisions, you know, as far as, you know, healthcare and death or, you know, what needs to be done. That I didn't see before. Now it's a very important issue in the gay community and everybody's community, for one, you know. If everybody else has it, why can't we?
Now, speaking on the health aspect of the LGBTQ community, Ms. Brandy, how do you feel when it pertains to your background, the medical field aspect? What do you see as a good thing between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton as it pertains to the medical rights for us?
Well, I think, some of the big things that are happening right now, you know, the growing cases of HIV, the growing cases of a lot of, you know, gay marriages that are coming out now. Healthcare wise, I mean, you look at it, the system is going to increase, which means the system needs to be improved. Donald Trump doesn't necessarily seem to be talking too much about what he would do to make the healthcare system better. All he continues to say is that Obamacare is the worst.
Which is not going to make it better, but...
It's not going to make it better, and honestly, there's a lot within healthcare that needs to change versus just, you know, Obamacare is the worst. It's everything. It's from the physicians that we're employing and putting into hospitals, and the people that we're allowing to take care of patients are not really even qualified in some instances because of where they come from. You know, I found out recently, you know, that there's a lot of doctors that are coming over from India, Mexico, that don't even have to have a physical medical degree. They just have to take classes, get certified there, and then come here and work under another physician that is board certified. That's crazy. Granted, they practice medicine, but it doesn't help with the healthcare system because patient care is suffering.
And what she's speaking of is medical practitioners.
But do you think, because everybody sees the commercials for the schools like Everest and things like that.
Right.
Do you think that's a huge problem because they promise, oh, come to school, you'll have a job, you'll start making all this money in the healthcare field.
If you
There
read
will
the
always
fine
be
print
jobs.
on those ads, or if you go to those schools, what they will do is help you try to find a job. They
They don't
can't even,
guarantee.
they don't
Yeah.
guarantee placement.
Right.
What you're also finding is that, you know, people are so entry level, and you can have degrees up the wall
Do you
now,
have the experience?
and you know, and not have any experience, and you get
But
hired.
what I'm trying to say is, do you think it's because all these people are running to all these schools to get medical certified to be a medical assistant, or, you know, the
I don't think
insurance
that's the issue,
code
because just like the food industry, healthcare is one industry that's never gonna die. So you always need, you know, you're always gonna need people in the healthcare field. I think those people just, you know, need additional training. It's the healthcare system is just a mess.
Well,
We're behind
Hillary
in other
acknowledged
countries
that.
anyway with our healthcare system.
With Obamacare, Hillary acknowledged that. She said it needs to be refined.
It
It,
does.
needs to be
It really
fixed.
does.
It needs to be fixed.
It's not that we'll get rid of it. We're gonna fix
Just
it.
improve it.
You know, improve it, make it right, make it work for the people.
But what's the big issue on Obamacare? I don't really see it, because he's one of the only presidents that actually pushed to get it passed. So we have some monetary or some form of a healthcare system.
People who can't afford private insurance get on the exchange. Those rates are double what
double.
I would pay
It kills.
at my private company.
They are double.
So
But
it's-
you have
it's
to look
kind of
at
a
it
joke.
that a lot of people that are getting on the exchange, they may already have issues in their own life that builds it to be more. Because if you read the fine print of the exchange, it does say that your predisposition of medical issues will not be weighed against you. But you have to understand, that is a computer. That is an outsource of multiple companies that have their information based on this computer.
Wow.
There's no real person sitting behind there saying, okay, she has cancer, so let me feel sorry for her and pull that down. Or he has HIV, and let's make sure he get his PrEP medication on discount.
Well, my thing is, you can't force the American people to have insurance and then say they can't get it because of pre-existing conditions.
Yes.
It's one or the other.
Yes, you can
But
force
that's
it,
what they do.
but you have to understand the people that sat down and called themselves reading the docket didn't read the docket. They placed in items that they wanted to put in place, and then this is the system we have. But they blame Obama. Anyways, next.
So I found it interesting as far as this question was brought up on fitness to be president. So both sides went back and forth on this, bringing up issues from President Clinton's past discussions with women as well.
And I'm gonna stop you there, Kai. We're not gonna perpetuate the system with giving information
And I
about
agree, because
Mr. Bill
he's
Clinton.
not running, she
He's
is.
not running for president. She's the lady
But
of the
that's been
house.
brought up many a times throughout the debate, and I think it's a weak argument for Trump.
It's a weak argument for all of
For
us.
anybody.
New topic. Let's give her that, the
Um,
mood of the nation. We are a part of that nation. We are a part of that demographic. So Corey, how do you feel on your mood of this nation?
To be completely honest with you, I'm very indifferent.
It's understandable.
It's understandable. He's in that age demographic where sometime you read the information, sometime you don't. Chris?
My mood is I'm ready for change.
We had that with President Obama, but a lot of people blocked it because they feel that the president shouldn't be of African
We
descent.
wasn't ready for a black man.
We weren't ready for a black man who was educated. Harvard.
The mood of the nation for me is weak. We have the ability to make it strong. With the right people in power and in control, we can be strong again.
But the question was, how do you feel?
Weak.
You
The
feel
nation's
weak?
Yes.
Okay. How does that make you feel weak though?
Because we don't have the empowerment that we used to have to do what we need to do to survive, to live life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. People are striking. Everyday people can't even afford to go get gas or bread, and you have people making billions of dollars in corporations. Yeah, the mood of the nation is weak.
Brandy?
I'm on the fence, honestly. You know, this whole election to me started out being the lesser of two evils. You know, I really didn't think either candidate was qualified in a sense. That's how I went into the election, you know, thinking. More so on Hillary, I'm liking her stance and I'm understanding her stance more and more. My biggest thing is equality all the way across the board.
My feeling on the mood of the nation is, who the fuck cares? And the reason why I'm saying it like that is because we turned it into a shit show. Puppetry.
A pissing contest.
Whose balls are bigger? Miss Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
Hillary.
Hillary.
Say her
So-
balls.
I would say hers is bigger because she's had a 30-year political history versus a couple of hours on TV called The
Back it
Apprentice.
up.
But I feel that it's a shit show because no one really has the opportunity to say what they want to say in the manner that they want to say it, and they don't go by the Constitution or the preamble of the United States, which we were founded on, our opening statement. But on that note, we're going to just end this thing and say, if it's not T. Donald Trump, then it's motherfucking shady, Miss Hillary Clinton.
All right.
Hashtag of the day is vote. Your ideas count.
Go vote.
Go vote.
Oh.